Lucius Tarquin sits at a battered old table, an equally scarred cup of coffee in his hands. As he blows steam from the surface, his eyes scan the warehouse. From the outside, it hadn't looked like much. But from here, Lucius sees the work of a master shipbuilder. At least 3 small fighters in various stages of assembly loom in the foreground, and beyond there's a small frigate. A host of bots continue their work as the shipwright herself returns to the table and drops a steaming hot flash mail in front of him. It's not the fine fare you're used to on Breach, but you'll get used to it out here, she says, before settling into the chair opposite him. Now, what void-brained reason do you have for being out here? Kaito sent me with this data packet, and she interrupts. But why you? I chose to leave. Yeah, there's more to that story, but I'll respect your secrecy. We all have our reasons for being out here, and truth be told, it's nice to see another member of the family. It's been a long time. How old were you when I left? Lucius thinks for a moment. 10? Maybe 11? And it has been so many years. Aurelia smiles. Well, Rampart may not be a resort, but you're welcome to stay for as long as you like. That is, if you don't have elsewhere to be. Just be careful with the locals. They get a bit testy. Kaito got me into the Heralds, so I suppose I'll have to look for more deliveries. Oh, that's right, your credentials. Well, if you're up for it, I just might have a message for you to take. But only if you want it. It's dangerous out here in the Outlands. Lucius looks at her. I'll take whatever work I can get. I don't have the family money to fall back on. Aurelia laughs and leans forward, clapping him on the shoulder. Nephew, that makes 2 of us. So in the absence of the family fortune, we'll just have to make our own. Tell me, have you heard of Lodestar? Welcome back for episode 2 of Errant Adventures. As always, I'm your game master and solo player, Steve Morrison. This week, I continue the adventures of Lucius Tarquin, using Ironsworn Starforged, a sci-fi version of the Ironsworn role-playing game designed by Sean Tompkin. You can learn more about it at ironswornrpg.com. Let's get right back to the action, so please enjoy episode 2, Testy, Townies. When last we left off, our hero, Lucius Tarquin, had just encountered the shipwright on the planet in the settlement of Rampart, and discovered that the shipwright was in fact his aunt, Aurelia Tarquin, who had left their home about 10, maybe 11, 12 years ago. So having discovered this, he kind of gets to communicate with her a little bit. And I think the first kind of order of business is to take a look at our condition tracks and see where we are. So we've fulfilled our initial vow, which is reaching the shipwright with the information packet. So we got a couple ticks of progress on the quest track. We're sitting at 4 momentum from last time. And then Lucius is at 4 out of 5 health and 3 out of 5 spirit. And also has full 5 out of 5 on supply. I think the first thing I want to do is try and spend a little bit of time and regain either some health or spirit. So 4 out of 5 health. I'm feeling okay about that at the moment. So I think I'm going to take a moment to try to hearten So when you socialize, share intimacy, or find a moment of peace, roll plus heart. On a strong hit, you find companionship or comfort, and your spirit is strengthened. If you are shaken, clear the impact and take +1 spirit. Otherwise, take +2 spirit. So I am going to go ahead and just do that. I feel like interacting with his aunt, finding her out here, has heartened him in some way. So let's see. So we're gonna roll plus heart. My heart is +2. I don't have any assets that would help me with this. However, I am interacting with my connection, and I don't remember if that lets me do stuff. Okay, so it's whenever a connection aids you on a move closely associated with their role, you may add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So that is not really doing anything in this case. Hearten, it's going to be heart +2. Here we go. Oh boy. I've got a 3 and a 7 on my challenge dice, and I've got a 3 on my action die. So on a miss, you take no comfort and the situation worsens. Pay the price. Or I could expend my momentum. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that because I have 4 momentum. It's the start of the new session here, so I don't want to start off with a miss. So I'm going to go ahead and burn that 4 momentum down to 2 and take a weak hit. So on a weak hit with Hearten, as above, but this indulgence is fleeting. Envision an interruption, complication, or realization. Ask the oracle if unsure. Okay, so I'm going to take +2 spirit, so that's going to take me back up to 5. And then there is either an interruption or there is a complication or a realization. I think it could be a couple different things. So I'm going to consult the oracle on this. So I'm going to say it is likely, she's already told me that this task that she has for me is potentially dangerous. So I think maybe the realization is that it's possible she is playing on our family connection and is essentially using me for her own goals. And so maybe I'll be distrustful. So I'm going to say it is about 50-50 that she's using me for her own ends and doesn't necessarily care as much as a family member might. Or at least the way that she's presenting herself, or maybe she is genuine in that. So I'm going to say it's 50-50, 51 or higher. We'll say that she is, in fact, using Lucius for whatever her purposes are. Yep, and 55. So he kind of gets a weird vibe off of this and is a little discomfited. But he decides, well, I'm out here. I have this connection with this person, so I might as well go ahead and use that, and is going to go ahead and take the job. Now, the job is going to entail transporting a message to Lodestar, which in our sector creation, Lodestar is off in in deep space. And the things that we know about it right now are there's a population of hundreds, and there's an oppressive authority ruling over it. I think the data packet that Aurelia gives to Lucius to take out there is destined for one of the sort of higher ranking members of this group. And I think as part of that, we want to kind of get an idea for what Lodestar is. And I have an idea already in mind, which is essentially that this is some sort of paramilitary organization, a fleet of some sort, and maybe they have some sort of, whether they be religious zealots or something like that, I don't know quite yet. So let's see what we can find out about them. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to just do a quick roll on the theme, see if that gives me any indication. 74. Revenge. Perfect. Okay. So they were cast out by someone, and I've got an idea forming, which is that the 5 founder clans, which are kind of the major powers in the Forge, they have a whole host of, people that they don't like and that maybe have been cast out. And so I think Lodestar is a burgeoning fleet of malcontents from the various 5 founder clans that are looking to overthrow the authority in the Forge of the founder clans and maybe create their own clan. And I think this is where the oppressive nature of it comes in, is there is a forceful leader who is driving all of this forward. And I think it's would be a good idea to give this person a name, because I think this is who this message is for. So let us pick out a name, and that name is going to be Nishana Aerith. So Aurelia says, I need you to take this information packet to the leader of Lodestar, a woman named Nishana. And she probably has some sort of title that she calls herself, or that the others call her. And they probably have set themselves up very much like a clan. So, clan leader Aerith, Nishana Aerith. I want you to take this packet to her and wait there for a reply. Lucius says, I can do that. Where can I find them? And she says, well, that's the difficulty. They move around a lot in deep space, and I have their last known coordinates, and I'll give you those as a starting point, but you're going to have to do a little bit of looking around to find them. And he nods. She says, if this is too much, I understand. I don't want you getting in over your head, but, and she sort of hesitates for a minute. She says, out here in the Outlands, we have to make our own way. And if you are not up for this task, perhaps you should go back home. And Lucius says, I can't. I won't go back home. Not yet. I can do this. And he pulls that small piece of ascendancy iron that he keeps on a cord around his neck. And he holds it and he says, Aunt Aurelia, on this ascendancy iron and by the blood that we share, I swear I will take this packet to Nishana Aerith, clan leader of Lodestar. And let's go ahead and swear that vow. So this is going to be roll plus heart. And I'm going to swear it to a connection. So I get to add +1. So I'm looking at +3 all told. Oh dear. Okay. So I've got 7 on my action die, and I've got an 8 and a 9 on my challenge dice. So I miss. So on a miss, you face a significant obstacle before you can begin your quest. Envision what stands in your way and do what you must to overcome the obstacle. Okay. I think this is pretty clear. The obstacle is the fact that his ship is back outside the shield, back where he landed it. And there are some Townies who don't like him so much and maybe lurking around waiting to kill him. So I'm going to go ahead and write down this vow. And we're going to say that this is probably a formidable vow. So on a formidable vow, when I mark progress, I will mark 1 box, 1 progress per success. Lucius swears this vow. He spends some time with his aunt, and then he leaves. He heads back outside. The whirlwind, I think, at this point has started to die down a little bit, but it's still pretty nasty. And remember, Rampart is a uninhabitable, very kind of toxic atmosphere world. And so he's all locked up in his environmental suit and retrieves Brutus from the front door, and they start to make their way back to the ship. And as he is getting close to the ship, that group of thugs steps out again and says, the leader again says, "Well, boy, you came out. Didn't think you would, but here you are." And Lucius says, "Look, I don't want any trouble. I get that you really, really want to get into the shipwright's warehouse, but that's just not going to happen. And you should give up now." And they say, "I don't think so. That's not how this works. And we're going to show you how this works. And I am going to, since I totally missed on that iron vow swearing, we're going to get into our first combat." So they pull guns. Brutus deploys his weapon platforms, and Lucius draws his pulse pistol as we enter the fray for the first time. So when you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your obstacle and give it a rank. So survive and escape to the ship is our obstacle, and I think that this is probably going to be formidable, unfortunately, because there are like 6 of them and one of Lucius, and he's not really a fighter, though Brutus, the combat bot, is all about it. So when speaking of Brutus, when you enter the fray, this is part of the combat bot companion asset. So when you enter the fray in personal combat with your bot at your side, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. Then if you strike, aided by your bot, add +1. If you clash, take +1 momentum on a hit. So that's very helpful. So we have envisioned our objective and given it a rank. The combat includes discrete challenges or phases. We don't have to worry about that, I think. Then we're going to roll to see if you're in control. So we can roll on the move plus edge, facing off against your foe plus heart, in the thick of it at close quarters plus iron, preparing to act against an unaware foe, shadow, or caught in a trap or sizing up the situation, roll plus wits. I'm torn between facing off against your foe, heart, and caught in a trap or sizing up the situation, roll plus wits. So I think I'm going to go to facing off against your foe, just because they had this moment of kind of back and forth, and Lucius is, despite, maybe coming from a little bit of privilege, knows how this is done. And I'm sure we haven't really fleshed out the founder clans and all that, but I'm starting to get this vision of them as being very warrior focused, and so he's probably seen some like personal combats in his life. The Forge is a rough place to be, and the strong survive. So we're going to roll plus heart, which is 2. We are going to add +1 for Brutus. So I'm adding +3 to my roll. Oh dear. Wow, my dice do not love me today. So I got 2 10s on my challenge dice, and 1 +3, for a very strong 4 on my action die. So that is a miss and a complication. I have 2 thoughts on the complication. So obviously, I begin in a bad spot. It's not great. We already knew this was going to be a bad spot. The question is, how mean do I want to be? And on the one hand, I could injure myself. Like, they get off a couple shots, and it's, starts off pretty rough for Lucius. And that could very easily spiral into very, very bad things. Or I could take Brutus off the table. And I think since it was a double 10 and I rolled a 1 on my action die, I feel like the worst possible complication has to occur here. And I think the whirling sands and, kind of detritus of this desert world have gummed up the works for Brutus, and it deploys its weapon platform and just kind of like, and like sparks start shooting out of it, and it just freezes up and then falls to the ground. And Lucius is distracted by that as he looks over and suddenly his trusty sidekick is no longer available. Okay, that sounds pretty bad. Now, we need to make some rolls here. So the first thing that happens is we're going to react under fire because they all open fire at him. They're not playing around. They're looking to kill him. And Lucius kind of like ducks back, trying to grab at Brutus to see what's going on, see if he can maybe fix it, restart it. So in pursuit, fleeing, dodging, getting back into position, or taking cover, plus edge. Not remaining stalwart, not blocking or diverting with force. Moving into hiding, no, not really. Changing the plan, finding a way out, or cleverly bypassing an obstacle. I'm going to go with edge here. So dodging, trying to take cover. So it's going to be +2 on my edge. And here we go. Okay, so I got 4 on the action die. I've got a 3 and a 6 on the challenge dice. That gives me a weak hit. So I succeed, but face a troublesome cost. I can make a suffer move, and I remain in a bad spot. All right, so I think we're going to start with stress. So he's going to lose a stress, and I think in this moment, I'm going to forego the enduring stress, and I'm not going to try and resist this stress at the moment. I am just going to keep moving. So Lucius like grabs Brutus and ducks behind one of the buildings and is going to then I want to try and get Brutus back up and operational if possible. And I think in order to do that, I'm going to have to face some danger. So we're going to go ahead and face that danger and hope that something good happens. I'm going to do wits on this because it's expertise, focus, or observation. So he's trying to use his expertise in dealing with the mechanics of the bot to try and see if he can reboot it quickly. All right, so this is +3 with the wits, and here we go. I've got a 7 on my action die, and then I've got a 7 and a 5 on my challenge dice, which is going to be a weak hit. So I succeed at a troublesome cost, make a suffer move. So I'm still in a bad spot, which is not great. And I'm going to go ahead and tick 1 off of my supply as I basically Lucius ducks behind the side of the building. He can hear them scrambling out there, and he pulls some sort of gel pack out of his bag and slams it into Brutus's chassis, and the gel expands around it and gets into all the crevices and cracks and cleans out. It's basically like an oil can, and it cleans out all the dust and everything that's got in there. And after a second, it's and the Brutus sort of comes back to life and starts hovering again. The weapons platform opens up, and they come around the corner, and they're still fighting. And we're gonna clash. We're gonna clash with Brutus now that he's back up in here. So we're in a bad spot. We're exchanging fire at a distance. So we're gonna roll plus edge. So if I get a hit here, I get to take an extra momentum, which is nice. Did I get any momentum for the weak hit on face danger? I don't think so. No, I just succeeded. That was the thing I get. So we're gonna clash, roll plus edge, which is 2, and 8 on the action die, 7 and 10 on the challenge dice. We've got another weak hit. So I get to mark my very first progress. This is formidable, so I get to mark 1 progress. But hey, 1 progress is still 1 progress. And I am going to also, since it was a weak hit, I'm dealt a counterblow or setback. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. He's going to take a hit. So his health goes down to 3. And I think I'm going to attempt to try and endure that. I think the stress, he kind of is accustomed to that, but he gets hit a little bit, and we're going to try and shake it off a little. we're going to go ahead and choose to resist the harm. Roll plus health or iron, whichever is higher. So my health is 3, so it's higher than my iron. So I'm going to go ahead and roll plus 3. Oh, it's looking okay. Yeah, so I got a 9 on the action die, and I've got a 4 and a 5 on the challenge dice. So with a strong hit, shake it off. You're not wounded. Take +1 health. Embrace the pain. Take +1 momentum. Ooh, boy. I'm going to shake it off. I should have marked a momentum for the hit on Clash, so I'm going to do that now. And with that strong hit, I am in control. So I think he takes that shot, he kind of stumbles back a little bit, like reaches his hand down towards his suit and discovers that it winged off of the kind of built-in armor. And as he like stumbles back like that, Brutus sort of sweeps in around and just lays down some suppressing fire, and a couple of the guys like dodge out of the way. And Lucius is going to heft his pulse pistol and is going to take a couple shots, and we're going to try and strike. Again, we're striking at a distance, and because I'm using Brutus, I get to add +1. So edge +1 is a total of 3 that I'm adding to this roll. And here we go. Oh, yes. I got a 7 on the action die, and I've got a 6 and a 5 on the challenge dice. So we are at another strong hit. So I get to mark extra progress. You dominate your foe and stay in control. So I'm assuming with mark extra progress, that means I get to mark 2 because it's formidable. So I mark 1 progress, and then I'd mark an extra progress. So I'm now sitting at 3 progress on survive and escape. That's pretty great. And I'm still in control of the fight because I got a strong hit on that, which is amazing. Lucius is going to try and pull away, back up, and like find a different route to get to the ship. So in this case, we're going to try and gain ground, and I'm trying to maneuver. So again, we're doing edge. So we're going to try and basically race along the side of this building that he ducked behind and attempt to circle around. Rolling plus edge is a +2. Okay, so I got an 8 on the action die. I got a 10 and a 4 on the challenge dice. So I'm going to lose control here. I got a weak hit. So it is a hit. Oh, actually, because it's a gain ground, I stay in control with a hit. But because it's a weak hit, I only get to choose 1. I can mark progress, I can take +2 momentum, or I can add +1 on my next move that's not a progress move. I am going to, you know what? I'm going to take the momentum. So I'm going to go up to 5 momentum, and I'm going to say that he finds kind of a small alleyway between the building that he's running along and the building next to it, and he squeezes into it, and he's kind of making his way. He can hear them shouting out and around, and they're like spreading out, but he thinks he can like sneak through this way. And as he like steps out of the side of this alleyway, he sees a couple of them and is going to attempt to strike again. So we're going to go with edge as he like leans out through this small little alleyway, and he fires the pulse pistol a couple times. Brutus comes up behind him and is like grrr on his big guns out there. And we're going to roll plus edge again, and still +1 for Brutus. So I'm sitting at a +3 here. Okay. So I got a 5 on the action die. I got a 4 and a 9 on the challenge dice. A weak hit. So I mark extra progress, but I expose myself to danger. So I'm going to mark another 2 progress on here, which is sitting me at 5. However, as he leans out and like boom, 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 takes down a couple of them, mostly it's Brutus, but Lucius is trying. He sees that there are a couple more who are like circling back and are basically like moving in towards his position. So let's say he takes out one of them, and he sees like 2 more behind him and 2 more ahead of him. And they are starting to shoot at him. He's going to, in this case, need to react under some fire. And I think his way out, he's changing up the plan. We're going to try some wits here. And he grabs onto Brutus, like jumps on Brutus, and triggers the bot's repulsor field to send him up onto the roof of this building. So we're going to do this plus wits, +3. We're reacting under fire, and it does not go well. I got a 6 on the action die, and I've got an 8 and a 9 on the challenge dice. So on a miss, the situation worsens. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. So I think he jumps on, the repulsors go off, and he attempts to, lift off of the ground, and Brutus just, it's still a little gummed up, and it just like, and the repulsor field is not able to lift him up. And because of that, I think he is going to lose some more. I'm going to say he's going to take, I think this is a pretty serious setback. So I think he's going to take both a loss of supply and a loss of spirit. So the loss of supply is because he's basically like burning through the fuel that he has for Brutus. And the spirit is because he's just stressed out about the fact that his bot is not performing in the way that it should be in this environment. And so the bot comes back down, and he is tucked back into this alleyway. There are these thugs closing in on either side, and he is going to try and fight his way out, shoot his way out. Brutus is firing one direction, Lucius is firing the other direction, and we're going to clash. We're going to clash again with edge. There's still at enough of a distance, it's not like hand-to-hand at this point, that he is able to use his edge, +1 for Brutus, not +1 for Brutus, only +1 momentum if he successfully gets a hit. So it's +2 with our edge. Here we go. Oh my gosh. An 8 on the action die and an 8 and a 10 on the challenge dice. That's another miss. And your foe dominates this exchange. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. And I think this is going to be, in this case, it's going to be 2 health as he is trying to fire, and they get a couple of good shots in, and he is looking a little bit worse for wear. He is going to try, and he realizes that he can't stay in this alleyway. He has to get out of here. To do this, he's going to activate a mode on Brutus that basically launches a bunch of flares and is trying to create enough of a distraction that he can he can sprint out of this alleyway and try to get away. So we're going to react under fire again. And I think, again, we're rolling with wits because he is changing up the plan. He's trying something different. He's trying to cleverly bypass, or maybe desperately in this case, bypass an obstacle. And so we're going to roll +3 with wits and hope that we get a good roll. Oh, wow. My dice hate me. Okay. So another 8 and a 10 on the challenge dice and a 7 on the action die. The situation worsens. I stay in a bad spot. All right. I am really, really struggling here. I'm going to pay the price in some way, and I don't want to just keep ticking down my tracks. I think the paying the price in this one is, and I don't know, it just feels like it's getting worse and worse. But I also don't want to take Brutus out of this again without some serious consideration, because that's really the only thing that is giving me a chance. So I guess my answer is to just go ahead and I guess I could lose some momentum. And it's not great, but at least I'm not ticking down my health or spirit or supply anymore. So I'm gonna do that. So he fires off these flares and tries to run out. I think he succeeds at running out, but he has to run the opposite direction from the ship. And so he is further away from the ship than he originally kind of started out in this combat. And it's just not great. It's not great at all. And I think in order to try and get back into a good position, he is going to attempt to face a little bit of danger and is at this point just sprinting. He's sprinting to try and make his way as far around as possible. I suppose I could also do this as a react under fire. Same difference. I'm in a bad spot. I am going to, instead of changing up the plan, I'm just running. So fleeing, dodging, trying to get back into position. We're rolling plus edge. Come on, dice. Do not fail me this time. Okay. So I've got a 4 on my action die. And I've got a 5 and a 2 on the challenge dice, which is a weak hit. So I succeed, but I face a troublesome cost. Make a suffer move, -1, and I stay in a bad spot. So I'm kind of like, I'm around to a different side of the field, but I'm starting to get pretty tired. So our spirit's down to 2 off of that, and we are really, really getting desperate. It doesn't seem like there's any way around without kind of going through. We're going to clash, hoping for a good strong hit, and we're still exchanging fire with them, plus edge, with the pulse pistol. They're running around. There are probably like other people who are kind of like watching all of this unfold, but because it's a toxic world, like nobody's coming outside. The risk of getting involved and having your environmental suit damaged is just too great. So people are staying inside and watching, and hopefully with this clash, we can turn the tide. Let's find out. Nope. All right, so we're at a 6 on the action die. We're at a 7 and 10 on the challenge dice. That is a complete miss, and boy howdy, Lucius is getting exhausted. So you stay in a bad spot, and we pay the price again. Just going to keep paying the price. Well, let's take a look here. Pay the price. Feel like with a clash, it makes sense that it's just more hurt. It's more pain. So again, I'm going to take a hit to my health, and I'm going to take a hit to my spirit too, because I don't want to take 2 out of my health. And I'm still thinking these are pretty serious setbacks. So instead of doing -2 to health, I'm doing -1 to health and -1 to spirit. And I guess I could face defeat and try to retreat back to the warehouse. But I think at this point, he feels like he wants to try and make it there. So he is out in the open. He's getting pretty shot up, and he needs to find another way forward. So he's going to try and make it back to that bar and get inside to try and take some refuge there. It's a little bit closer than the warehouse is. So I think he's headed in that direction. He wants to see if he can make it to the airlock there and get inside. So he is on his way there. We're going to react under fire. He's trying to pursue, flee. Well, he's fleeing, dodging, trying to take cover. So plus edge. Here we go. Come on, dice. Warm up a little bit. And yes. Okay. So I've got a 6 on the action die. I've got a 4 and a 2 on the challenge dice. So with a strong hit, succeed. I'm in control. Going to take some momentum. So he ducks into the airlock and is going to try and fire back at them from the airlock door before he seals it off and goes inside. So we're going to strike. We're going to add +1 for Brutus. Plus edge. We're at +3. Come on, I just need some progress. I need some progress. So I've got a 7 on a challenge die. I've got a 1 on a challenge die. And I've got a 9 on the action die, which gives me a strong hit on my strike. So I get to mark 2 progress, which keeps me in control, and I'm at 7 progress. I'm going to try to end this fight by taking some decisive action. So there are only, I'd say, 2 or 3 left, and he is going to attempt to go ahead and send Brutus out to take out the other 2. I'm in control. So here we go. Rolling my challenge dice. I've got a progress of 7. Yes. Okay. So I've got 5 and a 2. on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So I prevail. Take +1 momentum. If any objectives remain and the fight continues, you are in control. No objectives remain. I'm going to take +1 momentum, so that'll take me up to 5 momentum. And I think Brutus goes out and does what he's supposed to do. And as those others are out there and they're like screaming and shooting, Lucius is sort of crouched down in the open airlock of the bar and is just and then it goes quiet after Brutus finishes up with those others and the battle comes to an end. And Lucius Tarquin survives another very close encounter. He manages to stumble to his ship, Hadrian's Folly, and seals it back up. As the ship is lifting off, he settles in to try and do a little bit of healing and a little bit of resting. And let's see what happens. So when you receive medical care or provide treatment, envision the situation and roll. So if you receive treatment from someone not an ally, roll +iron. Obtain treatment for a companion. Mend your own wounds, roll iron or wits, whichever is lower. Or provide care, roll +wits. All right, so we're going to roll a little bit of healing with some iron, unfortunately, because that's my lower. So this is +1, and we are hoping for some good. Okay, so I got a 3 on the action die. I got a 1 and a 7 on the challenge dice, so a weak hit as above, but the recovery costs extra time or resources. Choose 1, lose 2 momentum, or sacrifice resources. So I am going to take +3 health, as if it was a strong hit, but I am going to lose 2 momentum, so I'm going to go back down to 3. Since I'm just like sitting in orbit, I haven't moved on with the vow. All right, so I'm sitting back at 4 out of 5 health as he like sets some regenerative patches on his various wounds, and then is going to settle in and take a little nap, I think, to try and hearten himself back up, rest a little bit. So we're going to roll +heart to hearten a little. Heart is +2. I've got a 7 on the action die. I got a 5 and a 10 on the challenge dice. So a weak hit on that as well. So as above. So the above is if you find companionship or comfort and your spirit is strengthened. If you are shaken, clear the impact and take +1 spirit. Otherwise, take +2 spirit. Perfect. So I'm going to 3 spirit. However, it was a weak hit. So the indulgence is fleeting. Envision an interruption, complication, or realization. All right. I think it's going to be an interruption. I just don't know what that interruption really is going to be. So let's roll on the action theme and see what it says. So action 67, oppose. Theme 82, stranger. Oppose stranger. All right. So we see the Hadrian's Folly floating in orbit above Rampart, and we see a flash of light in the vastness of space as another ship drops out of E-Drive in close proximity to the planet and to Hadrian's Folly. And let's see what kind of ship it is. Okay, it's a dreadnought. And, all right, that's kind of big. So the ship drops out of E-Drive and dwarfs Hadrian's Folly as Lucius is looking out of his screen, out of his window up at this massive dreadnought hovering over him. And he receives a hail from the dreadnought that says, "Herald, turn over the data now." And Lucius, who is new to this whole herald thing, but has probably, grown up around, he's grown up in this culture and knows that heralds have a sacred duty when they have sworn on iron to take a piece of data from one place to another. They have a sacred duty to fulfill that vow. And Mama Tarquin, whoever she was, didn't raise no Oathbreaker. And as he looks up at this massive dreadnought and hears this message playing over his comms, he says out loud, to no one in particular, "Aunt Aurelia, what have you gotten me into?" Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures. If you enjoyed the show, please tell your friends, family, pets, really anybody about it. And head over to iTunes to leave a review so more people can find me. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can find it at Errant Solo Pod. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.